أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا ونبينا حبيب الله رب العالمين أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد وعليه الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المظلومين واللعنة الدائمة على أعدائهم أجمعين من الآن إلى قيام يوم الدين. Amma ba'd, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome to Perspectives, a program that constantly look into a variety of perspectives within the Islamic universe in regards to different phenomena. For example, as we are in the month of Rajab, we would like to enlighten ourselves through the teachings of Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam in regards to this particular month, which is a very special month, which is a very blessed month. Greetings and felicitations to all our viewers who are with us, who are with other programs as well, who watch these programs, to all the followers of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam on this advent, on this beginning of this month of Rajab. As we all know that the month of Rajab is a very unique and special month, particularly for those who are striving, for those who want to be successful on this path of spirituality, on this path of spiritual wayfaring. It is a great opportunity for all of us that we benefit from. As you all are aware that time has a specific and a very special impact upon personalities, upon the soul of a person, upon the building up of personalities. Time has a very specific role to play, whether this be from the materialistic point of view, meaning that time, as they say, that opportunity knocks, as they say that opportunity comes, it's once in a lifetime, so on and so forth, that one have to grasp it, one have to utilize it in order that one benefit from it, right? So that timings are quite important in this physical realm of this world, and also in the spiritual realm as well. So therefore the month of Rajab is a very unique and special time for those who are on the path of spiritual wayfaring. Now, you may have heard and you may have been hearing, as we are in the month of Rajab, from my colleague, from my seniors, from my scholars, in regards to the importance of the month, that the month Rajab is the name of a river which is whiter than the milk in the heaven, and whosoever fasts in this month of Rajab will be able to have a goblet of drink from this river. And for example, the other benefits that the month of Rajab have, the other rituals and the du'as that are particular to the month of Rajab that one should really practice and bring into one's life. Enormous du'as are there. But what we would like to do is, in the continuation of our discussion from the previous weeks, where we have discussed the phenomena of ghaflat, which means that forgetfulness, and then we talked about the second important step that one takes in the valley of making one's akhlaq perfect, in this valley of making oneself perfect on this journey towards kamal, towards perfection. We discuss ikhlas, right? And after that, today I would like to point out to you the importance of dua in our life, because as we are in the month of Rajab, it's been about 2 weeks now, and it's quite important that we benefit from this month, and through the means of dua, because there are particular duas that have been recommended to be recited in this month. and also the reality of dua, right? And also the implementation of dua, the recitation of dua, and its effect on the takamul insan, and its effect upon the perfection of the soul, how our soul becomes perfect through dua. That's another reason, because our discussions are on ethics, are on akhlaq. So we are talking about, we talked about ghaflat, we talked about ikhlas. Now today I would like to talk about dua as a means of achieving, because we said that one of the ways to come out of ghaflat is that connection, is that relationship, is that dua. So here now I'm using the program in order to discuss one of the means by which one comes out of forgetfulness. I'm using today's program in order to discuss that one of those things by which one brings about khulus and sincerity and ikhlas, because these two topics were discussed in our previous programs. So today's program is enhancing, is helping in the previous program, and it's a continuity of basically the previous programs for those who are following us. Now here, in regards to dua, as we say that dua is one of the means, is one of the vehicle through which one reaches God. Now the question is, what type of vehicle is this? It's quite important, brothers and sisters, that we need to have the marifat, or the understanding of what we are utilizing and what we are using to greater extent. The more, obviously, the better. For example, if I am taking an antibiotic, I should know that what is this antibiotic for, in order that the effect of this antibiotic be more stronger. Now the question is, when I am saying the effect of this medication will be stronger when I know what that medication is that true? Well, one would say that not really, because anybody who takes that medication, it will have its own effect, the chemical changes, so on and so forth. But for sure, if I have the information of the medication that I am taking, when to take, and the knowledge of it, that if I delay it, how detrimental that would be, for example, or how it will have a weak effect on me, then I will be very, very careful, or I'll be taking it regularly. I will be on top of it. I will be not delaying it, for example. So I have some knowledge which is enhancing me, which is helping me to take it regularly, which is helping me to really give me an insight of that medication, the side effects of that medication, what precaution that I need to take. All of these things will have an effect upon my body, right? Yes, you're right when you're saying that a medication has its own chemical effect on the body, regardless of you know it or you not know it. That is true, right? But if I have a detailed information of the chemical changes that are taking place, and the reaction that might happen, and the way to really control, to really see that what food goes with this medication or not, and what timings are better to take the medication or not, obviously it will have a greater effect. So the same way in regards to dua, when we are reciting dua, we first have to know what dua itself is, what prayers itself is, what this supplication itself is. Then after having that knowledge, then obviously when we indulge, when we participate, when we engage in recitation of prayers, then it will have a different effect upon us and upon our soul. Now, let's look at this phenomena of dua. Let's have a perspective of dua, in today's program, which will help us improve our akhlaq, particularly as we mentioned earlier that this program is enhancing and helping the previous programs that we have, which is on akhlaq. Because one would say that, okay, what does dua have to do? Why Maulana is talking about dua? What does dua really have to do with akhlaq, right? One should be talking about jealousy, one should be talking about generosity, one should be talking about backbiting, one should be talking about, what about dua? Dua, what type of dua? How come dua will have an effect? Dua or prayers, as it is translated as, there are two modes of prayers. There are different modes, but particularly one could really bring it down to by saying there are two modes of prayers. One mode of prayer is known as the canonical prayer, and the other mode of prayers could be considered as personal prayers. The canonical prayer are considered to be those prayers which are prescribed by God. For example, our daily prayer, which are wajib, prescribed in a particular method. So what I'm trying to say is that the canonical prayer, the author of the canonical prayer is God. But the other type of prayers, which we call them as dua, or sometimes it's translated as supplication, the other type of prayer, which is dua, is not, the author of that is not God. The author of that is a saint, the author of that is an imam, the author of that is a prophet, the author of, for example, is of those duas could be, our parents, for example, when they do dua that, okay, let my daughter, my son, my grandchild have such and such a grade or whatever, get married and whatever, right? So the author of this dua is the grandfather or the grandmother, or myself when I'm asking something. So the author of that dua is myself. So to recognize the modes of prayer, we can bring it down to two modes of prayer. One is a mode of prayer which is known as the canonical prayer, which is prescribed by God Himself, right? It should be done in that particular fashion, at a particular time. The other type of canonical prayer is the individual prayers, where a person himself is the author of it. Now, canonical prayer, the first mode of prayer, is not just the wajib prayer, which the author of it is God, but all prayers which have the style, for us to understand, which have the style of our wajib prayers, which have a ruku, which have a sujood, which have a tashahhud, which have a hamd and qul wallah, which we call it salat, or which we call it namaz, for example. The author of namaz, whether that be wajib namaz, wajib salah, or whether that be mustahab salah, the sunnah, salatul layl, salatul, ghufayla, so on and so forth, the author of that is God. God have asked, this is the way to do sajda, this is the way to do ruku, this is the way to recite tashahhud, this is the surah should be recited. It is God. But the other ones, for example, you have Dua Arafai Imam Hussein, Dua Arafai, Imam Zainul Abidin, Dua of the month of Rajab, Munajat Shabaniya of Amirul Mu'mineen. So the authors are different, and it could be recited in any given form. I'm doing the tawaf around the Kaaba, I will recite Munajat Shabaniya. Or I am, for example, late at night, I will recite Dua Kumail, for example, right? Oh no, I will recite not Dua Kumail, I will recite Joshan Kabir. It's in the morning, I will recite Joshan Kabir, for example, right? Or Mashlul. So the timings are not specifically mentioned, the style is not specifically mentioned, but when it comes to the prayer, when it comes to that salat, whose author is God, that is particularly mentioned at a given time. One should recite, this is how one should perform, this is, one should really face the Kaaba when they are performing it, they should be on wuzu, for example, when they are performing it, without which all of these things are incomplete. So the author have prescribed, which is God, in this particular fashion. That is a mode of prayer, that is one mode of prayer, that's a one sort of mode of prayer where the author is God. You have the other, which we said that the author are the imams, and it could be recited anytime, anywhere, whether you face the Kaaba or you face the Haram, or you face, you are somewhere, in the, in the garden, in the jungle, you are just sitting and you can just recite. Okay. Now, going back onto the reality of canonical prayer, the essence of canonical prayer is where a person recites, or a person meets God, if I want to say, because prayer is really meeting, right? Because when a person meets God, he speaks to him, right? Through this journey of prayer, he reaches God and he speaks to him, right? So the first canonical mode of prayer, which are the first mode of prayer, which is canonical prayer, in that man is meeting God, man as such, and God is meeting man, God as such. What do I mean by that? When the person is reciting salat, he is meeting God with his true essence, as an insan, as a human being, as an insan he is meeting. And he's been raised to the level of kul, not juz. What do I mean by that? When he is meeting God, he is meeting as a human being. He is meeting as representation of all humanity. That's how he is meeting him, as an insan. That is why we recite Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in, which means that we na'bud, we worship you, and we seek help. It's not ana, it's not me who is worshipping you and who is taking or seeking help from you, but it is a we as a plural, right? As a representation of all of humanity. As an insan, I am representing, and we as a human being, seeking help from you, seeking aid from you, seeking assistance from you, and we are worshipping you, right? So here, the canonical prayer, when I say that man is meeting God, man as such, as a human being, that we all as a human being. That's one. And also, when we say that a human being or an insan is meeting God, man as such, meaning that what is his reality? What is his essential reality? Which is that he is Ya ayyuhan nas antumul fuqara ila Allah inna Allah ghaniul hamid. He's meeting as someone who is, for example, faqir, who is faqir, who is in need of God all the time. So that's how he meets God, that he is in need. He is nothing and God is everything. Subhana Rabbi al-Azimi wa bihamdi. Then no, Subhana Rabbi al-A'la wa bihamdi, right? He is meeting in that sense that God is the greatest, God is the highest, right? So he is showing himself as faqir. He is showing himself that as he is really nothing as such. So it is a complete focus of man in its most humble sense towards God, by understanding the kamalat and the perfections of God. The more a person portray, manifest, show his reality that he is nothing, that he manifests his humility to God, the greater the effect of this dua or of these prayers would be upon him. Then if he unveils himself, if he strip himself from his ego, from all who he is, and meets God in that true fitri sense, and meets God naked, if I would like to say, without any sort of barriers or veils or clothing, then God will also meet him in that fashion. You see, it's the lover and the beloved, right? So the more he comes closer without any hijab, without any veils, God will meet him in that same fashion as well. God will show his kamalat, his perfections in the same fashion as well. If he's saying, I am nothing, God will say, I will make you everything. I will give you everything. If you are asking, with that humility and humbleness, and by realization of that you are nothing and you are weak, then God will say, I'll make you powerful. I'll make you everything. Because you are being truthful to your nature. You are being truthful towards me. And this is something that I really like, that I really love, that I want everyone to be truthful towards me, who they are and what they are. That is why, although the Imams, the Masumeen, the Ahl Bayt, they did not really committed any sin, but that is reflected in their du'as. God says that the reality of dua is that God says that if it was not for the prayers, I wouldn't have looked at you. Inna Rabbi lasami'ud du'a. Certainly, my Lord is the one who sees, who listens to the dua. Wama yubdi'ul batilu wama yu'id. So now the reality of dua is that this alam, this creation, have no reality by itself. It's not independent. It is dependent on God, right? And this is the reality. But the reality behind this creation is nothing but that truth, is nothing but God. That is the reality. That's why it returns back to God. Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. So the point is that we have to come to the realization that, when we are seeking, when we are asking, everything have no reality but God is real. And like I said earlier, in one of the chapters of the Quran, in Surah Rahman, verse number 29, it says that قُلْ مَا يَعْبَوْ بِكُمْ رَبِّي لَوْلَا دُعَاؤُكُمْ. If it wasn't for your du'as, God wouldn't have paid attention to you. It is these calls that I am saying, that I am performing, which is making me a center of attraction from the Lord. When I call, I am asking or seeking His tawajjuh, His focus towards me. That's what's happening in the case of dua. Right. Now, if we pay attention to, other aspects of the reality of the dua, then we will be able to utilize in a greater way this method of seeking. Now, as we said earlier, now going back onto our description, we said that you have the modes of prayer. You have the canonical mode of prayer, which are any forms of salat that we perform, and the author is God for it. That's what we said. And the other mode of prayer is the individual prayer. The author is the saints or the imams of the Prophet. Now, the canonical prayer are prescribed by God and performed and are much higher and more powerful than the individual prayer. They are more powerful because they are prescribed by God. That's why, they say that, okay, if you have any hajat, if you have any desire, pray 2 rakat prayer, a hajat. Rather than, yes, I have hajat, I have something that I want, I would go in sajda, or I would raise my hands and I would say, oh Allah, you are so perfect, you are so great, you are so loving, you are so caring, you are so merciful. Provide me with this. This is seeking hajat. Yes, that is a dua, right? But for the hajat to be answered in a more quicker way, or to be heard in a greater fashion, they say you perform 2 rakat prayer of hajat and then do dua. So there's this 2 rakat. 2 rakat is realization of this, wonderful method by which one comes closer to God and then raises his level higher, raises his level to man as such, to all of humanity, iyaka na'bud, and then seeks and then asks whatever the hajat that he has. This seems to be more effective, more powerful. Salat al-Tawbah, Salat al-Maghfirah, although there is dua maghfirat, there's dua tawbah, there's all of that is there, but there are prayers as well. There are prayers as well to perform in a particular way. The same applies for other prayers, Salat al-Fatimah Zahra Salamu Alayha, Salat al-Nawaz Jafar al-Tayyar, all of these things are, author is God, is prescribed in such a specific way to be performed, and it is ruku and sajda. Right. Now, in regards to the reality of dua, now we need to look into what's happening when one is reciting the dua. What's going on here exactly? When one is reciting the dua, one is trying to seek the tawajjuh of one of the kamalat, one of the perfections of God, which is sam. Sam means hearing. So when I am calling God, I am seeking the manifestation of this kamal, which is known as sam of God, which is known as sam, which is known as hearing of God, because Allah is Sami'. God is all hearing. He is Sami'. He is Basir. He is all seeing. Right? So when I'm asking from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when I'm calling God, there is sound. And through this sound, which requires a hearing, so I'm asking the Sami, the Ism Sami, the name of Sami, the name of Allah, to really manifest, to really show to me. That is Kamal. That is perfection. That is reaching the higher level, where I am seeing the name, where I am observing the name, where I am coming under this specific name of God, which is Sami. It's a bit deep concept. It's a bit philosophical that one really have to have a deeper understanding of it. So Sami is basically where a person is attracting is, seeking that Kamal of God to come out from him. Particularly. Although Allah is Sami all the time. It's not like, okay, Na'udhu Billah, he is not Sami, he is Basir, he is seeing everything now, right? But he is not hearing. No, he is hearing at the same time seeing. His hearing is exactly the same level of Kamal and perfection that his seeing is, right? But the difference is for me. I am coming under that unique ma'rifat or understanding or that blessing of that light, of that nur of Sam'i Khuda, of that hearing of God. That's what happening here. You see, that's what this Kamal is. So in a way, God said that kuntu kanzan makhfiya, that I was a hidden treasure and I wanted to be known. I created the creation. So in a way, what's happening here is that the Kamal of Sami is being understood, is being manifested because of your seeking, is come to that crystallize to that unique and special sort of level where God is Sami and I am calling him. So when I am calling him, he is hearing to me. I am reaching that Kamal and perfection, through this. I am coming under that special name of God, that special protection, for example, of God, which is Sami. So that's what is happening. Yeah. Now, when we look at how Ya Musa inni dhikri hasanun ala kulli hal. O Musa, the remembrance of me, dhikr of me, is hasanun, is very good, ala kulli hal, in every state. It is something that is very unique, very good, very special. My joy in will. Ya Isa, i'lamu anna sururi an tubaz bisa ilayya wa kun fi dhalik hayyan wa la takun mayyatan. My joy is, as Hazrat Isa, have mentioned that, O Isa, to Isa alayhi salam, Allah is mentioning, O Isa alayhi salam, know that, you should know that my joy is on for the person who shows his humbleness and humility towards me. So when a person shows his humbleness and humility in front of God, when he says that he is nothing and he is nothing, he is nothing and he is really nothing, Kamal, that is perfection of insan, is to show his humbleness, servitude and humility. Now, inshallah, what we will be doing in our next program is trying to dissect into more detail, as we are in this special month of Rajab. So today what we did is, in conclusion, because we are running out of time, that we said there are two modes of prayer. One mode of prayer is known as the canonical prayer, where the author is God. The other mode of prayer is the supplication or the prayers or the du'as that we have. The authors are the imams, or the author is a saint or a waliullah or whatever, or individuals, like person who asks, this particular need. That is also dua, right? When somebody is seeking, that is also dua. Now, we pointed out to the reality of dua is to really show God that, to be truthful. That's the reality of God, to be truthful, that one is really nothing. And when one is truthful to God, God will be truthful to him as well. God will show those kamalat to him. We mentioned that. That's the second principle. Finally, before we leave, I just wanted to point out to another unique principle of the dua, and that is when a person, sound, it's an alamat, it's a sign of being alive. When a person is in the state of dua all the time, it points out to that he's in a state of living and he's alive. He is not in the state of ghaflat. When he is doing dua all the time, he's not in a state of ghaflat. Ghaflat of what? Ghaflat of being that, thinking that he is of some value or he's something. Ghaflat from that fitrah that he's really nothing and God is absolute and God is it and he's really nothing. One becomes ghafil of that. One really thinks that he's something. So if he's in a state of dua all the time, he is reminding himself the limitation of his, and he is basically remembering the perfections of God and the kamalat of God. So it is a sign of being alive. That is why when a child is born, when he comes to this dunya, the first thing is sound. The first thing he does is cries. That is dua. That is dua. And the last thing that he does from when he's leaving the dunya, he's also doing najwa. He's whispering to God. Begins with dua, ends with dua. And it begins with nothingness of his, and it ends with nothingness of his. And that is inna lillah wa inna ilayhi raji'un. غفر الله لنا ولكم. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless you all, bless our marhumeen in this month, in this special month of Rajab. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgive all our sins and the sins of our marhumeen. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala haste the reappearance of our 12th Imam and include us as the faithful companions of the 12th Imam. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us tawfiq and give all our mu'mineen and mu'minat tawfiq to really improve ourselves day by day on this path of spiritual perfection, in this akhlaqiyat. May this month of Rajab bring a change into our lives and also in the lives of all mu'mineen and mu'minat and all Muslimeen as well. غفر الله لنا ولكم. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and good night from Hidayat. Thank you for watching us. Thank you.